Hello everybody, Triple here, and welcome to something different. Welcome to Eternia, first of all. This is a Pixelmon server where me and my friends, you know them, B and Virus, they've shown up on the channel before, but we play here a lot, and if you don't know what Pixelmon is, it's Minecraft Pokemon. And this server is actually really nice in that they weekly host a small tournament. And I've been joining them most of the time so far. There was one I haven't joined so far. And yeah, they are really fun to do. It's usually the same group of people that shows up. So you get some really fun competition. And it's just a lot of fun to do them. There are actually two tournaments I want to talk about today. You've probably seen the title. But I've done two tournaments recently. And I kind of want to go through them because on this server, it's very cool. The only difference is you have to do everything by hand. You have to train them, you have to gather them, you have to prepare the Pokemon in every way you can, which also means you need to breed egg moves and buy TMs and stuff like that. Luckily, there is a TM shop, so a lot of the things are pretty easily done. But it still takes some time to get things to work and build things. But I had two tournaments that I actually did very well in. And the first one, they always have a format, was NetDex Mono Gen, which means every Pokemon you had to be of the same generation. Starting the team off is my first and the star Pokemon of this entire video, Araquanid. Araquanid. This Pokemon has been a favorite of mine for a long time. I'm running a very simple choice band set with Liquidation, Leech Life, Poison Jab, and Stick Webs. And the whole idea is this is a bait for hazard removal or hazard denial. I want people to taunt this or try to defog on this and just hit them with a Liquidation and kill them. Because that's what this Pokemon does. It just bodies people. Next up was a Pokemon that actually B helped me to get. B and Virus have both been giving me a lot of help here with getting these teams together, especially B, who's AFK on the server a lot and gets a lot of legendary Pokemon that she allows me to use for these. I had Tapu Bulu, who has a jolly nature, very simple 3 attack Swords Dance set with Horn Leech, Close Combat, and Zen Headbutt. I did want Stone Edge on this, but I ended up not having time to change Sun Headbutt. But it's very good. The grassy terrain is very nice for one of my later Pokemon, and it's a good grass type. Like, it's just good. It's very solid. It has leftovers on it, so it can live a few hits a bit longer. And yeah, it's really, really handy to have here. Next up is Celesteela. This was actually a Celesteela I caught earlier on, and I trained it now to be a Autotomize Sweeper with the Metronome, which isn't actually common set, with Flamethrower, Giga Drain, and Air Slash. The whole idea is one Autotomize, and you can kind of just click buttons, plus Celesteela itself is bulky enough to get that setup off. So it's a really, really solid Pokemon with good coverage. It does have the Beast Boost into special attack if it kills something, which also helps with sweeping with this. And yeah, it's insane typing, insane bulk, very good coverage, very, very good Pokemon. This was my next pick, Como. I actually we have a player-run store on the server where you can buy Pokemon. And this was one of the Pokemon I bought from there, which was a Hekmo. Actually it was a Jangmo, I think. With pretty good stats. So I decided that I really wanted Como in this because Clangorous Soul is just incredible. And I'm running a very, very offensive team. So I decided that Como could be a very good pick there for Gen 7. With the Clangorous Soul, with Clanging Scales, with Flamethrower, and I actually went with Drain Punch as my last move. Because Drain Punch is really nice for some extra recovery. I do get a defense and a speed buff from it. And Como, again, has good natural bulk. I did also want Commonium Z on this, because that was legal, but we couldn't find the Commonium Z in time, so I ended up just going with the Throat Spray on this. But it's still really, really solid. And one of the big reasons I chose this generation is Comfey. Comfey is broken, and everybody who watched my videos knows it. Priority is insane, and Comfey is actually paired with Araquanid an insane duo, since nothing that switches in on Comfey likes taking a hit from Araquanid. The whole idea is Comfey is my late game sweeper with Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, Giga Drain, and I have Aromatherapy on it, just in case I want some healing. Store Power was also an option, but I didn't exactly know how to get it on Comfey. Can you look at me? So eventually I ended up just going Aromatherapy, which was also very solid. And yeah, Comfey is another one of those Pokemon that's a staple of my channel and of my career. And it's really good. And as the last mon, I wanted a fire type. I was thinking Incineroar at first, but I didn't have an ability patch, because you need to find ability patches, they're incredibly rare. So I couldn't get Intimidate on it. So instead I decided to go with Salazzle. I found a female Salazzle, Salandit, and trained it up to be a fast special attacker. But it is Corrosion Toxic with Substitutes Protect. So it Toxic stalls mons very effectively. And I have Flamethrower as a left move because... Okay, I have 3 mons with Flamethrower. And I should probably explain that. One of the previous tournaments, 2 of the previous tournaments actually, I lost to an Aegislash, and I didn't want to be without an answer to it. So Salazzle is here. It was trained before for the tournament before this, which was Monotype, and now it's here again because Gen 7 has actually not a lot of fire types. So this was a very good pick here. Getting a Toxic off and then allowing one of my Pokemon to sweep is very, very nice. And with that, my team was ready for the tournament. Now, the tournament took place on a Sunday, and there were only a handful full of people that actually participated. But I still had to try my best, because a lot of these people are actually pretty good. And I was very scared about this. And I had no way of knowing the matchups until a friend named B actually came by and showed me every single team that my opponents had. I didn't know this was a thing, but apparently in Pixelmon, if you hover over someone, you can see their team. And she has gone to all my opponents and given me their team, which actually gave me a huge advantage. The brackets got sent in the chat, and my first match was against Sibney, again, because the last 4 tournaments have been my first round against Sibney. I don't know what's up with this man, but apparently we're just fated to fight every time. But yeah, first round against Sibney, and he kind of had the perfect lead for my Araquanid. In this tournament, we don't have team preview, so we just send out our first Pokemon. And since he had a lead Heterene, he was preparing for, I'm pretty sure he saw my team, saw Araquanid, and was like, I'm gonna lead my Heterene so that I don't have to worry about sticky webs. And he didn't have to worry about sticky webs, because he got one-shot. And that was actually a really insane start to this tournament, because this is a trend that's gonna follow almost the entire tournament. People try to set up or sleep on Araquanid and just pay the price for it. Because what happened after is he went Toxtricity and it died. Like, it did a lot of damage to me, but I'm Araquanid, I'm bulky. So then he goes into a Pokemon he knew would live, because Poltergeist has Sash. I saw his team beforehand, and I knew he had a very offensive team. He had a hyper-offensive setup team like mine, but he had to expend his Sash here to get up a Shell Smash. And while that's very good, and he did kill my Araquanid, Celesteela will always be bulky enough to eat hits from +2 Poltergeist. It can store power me because I resisted, so it had to Shadow Ball me, and I live it, meaning I get a KO on it, which is huge in of itself, because that was one of the biggest threats that I had that I could possibly face. Next he brings in the Corviknight, which actually was kind of a surprise to me. I killed the Poltergeist without revealing Flamethrower, but everybody knows that Celesteela gets fire coverage. I think he was just expecting him not to get something, because he gave me Corviknight with the Flamethrower, and then with Ice Cube, who was still slower than me, and because I'm special, I go past the Ice Face, so I killed that too. And then his last Pokemon was a Phalanx, who I died to, but then I got Toxic off with Salazzle, and with Comfey in the back, that could never win for me. So that was pretty good first showing of Araquanid, and that's exactly why I brought it this tournament, because people sleep on it, people are not prepared for it, and yeah. My next opponent is Maniac Soup, who actually brought a pretty scary Gen 5 team, leading with a Galvantula actually, which if you know anything about Elite Galvantula, it's here for Sticky Webs, and Araquanid doesn't care. So what I did was I led Araquanid and I clicked Liquidation. It Toxic me, which was very smart of it, but also it didn't get a hit off on me, so a Toxic into a Sticky Web and Galvantula goes down. Next he goes actually into Chandelure and makes a pretty smart play of tricking his Choice Scarf for my Choice Band, which weakens me quite a bit, but I do kill it in the process. But it allowed him to bring in his Bisharp, which Bisharp is a threat, because this thing is bulky, it has Sucker Punch, it's not King Gambit yet because that's not in the mod pack, but it's pretty strong, and I have to worry about it, and I actually got a pretty good liquidation off before I died to poison, and I get to bring in my Celesteela, and predicting a Sucker Punch, I autotomize up on a switch to Volcarona, who I actually Air Slash, which is insane because I had seen this team before. Volcarona is something I will always be scared of, and he killed my Araquanid, which was my best answer to it. So getting this hit off was actually insane. It forced him to go back out into his Victini actually. He had a Choice Scarf Victini, which actually was faster than me and got a V-Create off on me. And at this point I was setting up for my Wincon, which was either Coma O, because I knew his last few Pokemon were the Bisharp, the Volcarona, which was almost dead, the Victini, and the a Hydreigon that he had in the back. So what I actually did was I went my Tapu Bulu, knowing Victini is still faster and that it will one-shot me, to lower its stats more in an attempt to make it switch out. And then I went my Como, and I Clanger Assault up. He hits me with a V-Crit, which is actually very smart. But I get to kill his Volcarona with a Clanging Scales. He does bring his Victini back in, and to my surprise, it is to Final Gambit me. And actually, I'm totally fine with him Final Gambiting me. That was the one thing I wanted gone, because it was a massive threat to my remaining Pokemon. And I knew his last Pokemon, it was a Hydreigon. I saw it in the team preview. In the team B sent me, he had a Hydreigon. Hydreigon can never win to Comfey. Even with Sticky Webs up, I have the Triage, and I one-shot that. So that actually worked out way in my favor. At this point I only had one opponent left, and it was Riley, and since I had two very tough opponents before this, I was kind of scared of Riley, because I knew his team. He had a Gen 5 team as well. In fact, Gen 5 was very popular in general, and I was scared of what he could do with the power he had. He had a Hisuian Semirot. I was terrified of having to play with Spikes, even though later I learned that it's the Hisuian Ceaseless Edge, so it does damage over time instead of Spikes. But this goes to show you that you don't always judge a book by its cover, because he was not ready for my Araquanid. He leads his Garbodor to get up T-Spikes, which is nice, but I do have Poison types to absorb them, so I don't really care. I had led my Araquanid, and I just clicked the button, and I one-shot him. He's probably at this point scrambling for an answer, because what he does next is bring in a Samurott, which actually is kind of a surprise to me, Um, and he turns out to be special, which was the biggest surprise of all, because Grassnot, I am not that heavy, plus I'm a special tank. Grassnot does barely any damage, so I'm actually fine with taking that. And next he tries to Scald Burn me, which actually gets blocked by Water Bubble, because Water Bubble is an insane ability. It has like 3 separate effects in one. It's like actually stupid. But Water Bubble blocks that, so instead he tries to go for an Ice Beam Freeze, which fair I guess, but it doesn't work out. Next he brings in his Hoodlum Kellum. Scrafty is scary, sure, but nothing I can't deal with, honestly. Because with a well-placed liquidation, he pokes up. With a well-placed liquidation at +1 defense, I still do over 70%. He tries to rest here, but if he doesn't get his Jet Skin at 1 turn, I just 2-shot him, so I get a crit and just speed up the process a bit. He lost that mon there either way. But he tries to go his Reuniclus on me. Very bulky Pokemon, so it makes sense. And it does get a Side Shock off on me, but I outspeed it and 2-shot it with Liquidation. And when his Excadrill comes in and outspeeds me and kills me, the damage has been done at this point. I go my Bulu to get the Grassy Terrain up for my next Pokemon. I let it go down to Iron Head, which I assumed it had. And I bring in Salazzle, because I know a Flamethrower will bring it to its sash. It ended up not having a sash, but it brings it down to its sash, so I can from there kill it, but it did get 1-shot. And he only has Volcarona left, so I Toxic it, and I just camp it out, because at this point I have too many turns, and he's on borrowed time. And yeah, that's my first tournament won. And it was actually like, it's a team of my favorites, and Generation 7 is just one of my favorite gens. So yeah, this is the second tournament. It's mono leather, which means every Pokemon has to start with the same leather. And I actually have a very cool team with a lot of Pokemon I really like. I had some time, I prepared a lot myself this time, which actually took me a lot of time, but I got one Pokemon from B again, because she is just insane at this game, and she arranges a lot of things. Guess who's back? Araquanid is back again, because I have an A team, if you will, and Araquanid is always broken, and seeing how well he did last time, I decided to just bring him again. No changes at all, but he's really, really powerful again, and he can click some good buttons here. However, this time I paired him with Arboliva, which is one of the few Gen 9 Pokemon that's actually in the game now. Arboliva is insane. It has a Choice Spec set here with Giga Drain, Hyper Voice, Dazzling Gleam, and Earth Power. And this thing has... I use this on my main team because it beats all the bosses I come across. It beats all the wild Pokemon I come across. It's really, really powerful. It's slow, yes, but with the Choice Specs, it lifts a hit and it just kills something basically. This little baby, I was looking for a Mega to use here, which I didn't have a Mega in the last generation, because Gen 7 I'm pretty sure didn't add any new Megas. But this, I was looking for a Mega. We have very limited Mega Stones, so it became a toss-up between Ampharos or Audino, and Ampharos actually very nicely rounds out with a Dragon type. I really wanted the Dragon type, I wanted a Fire Resist. So Ampharos is here with Ampharosite, max special attack, max HP, a little bit of Spadaf with Discharge, Power Gem, Dragon Pulse, and Thunder Wave. And this Pokemon deals big damage. It's very slow, but it's such insane damage. Arcanine was actually one I really wanted to finish off the Fire, Water, Grass core. Arcanine is a Fist Death Wall here. I had to breed this a few times with Espeon to get a Morning Sunset, which actually that in itself was a whole ordeal because I had to get an EV for myself that I could evolve into an Espeon, then get Morning Sun and then breed this with an Everstone so that I could keep the nature it had. Plus defense nature, I'm pretty sure. I think it's bold. It's plus defense minus special attack. No, plus defense minus attack, sorry. Because this set has Morning Sun, Will-O-Wisp, Flamethrower, and Snarl with Intimidate to come in on things and basically just wall a lot. Articuno is here as a bit of support. I wanted Armarouge at first over Arcanine and Articuno. Armarouge would have been very cool, and also a Trick Room setter, which my Articuno is right now. But Armarouge is not in the game yet, not in Pixelmon yet. It technically is, but not available. So I had to settle for Articuno G, who has a very supportive set here in Future Sight, U-Turn, Recover, and Trick Room. The idea is this Trick Rooms, and then I get one of my slow Pokemon in with U-Turn, and just start clicking buttons. And under Trick Room, my Herbalife is insane, Araquanid is insane, and my Ampharos is insane. So the whole idea is this comes in under Trick Room, brings in Trick Room, and then one of my other Pokemon sweep. It is a modest nature, so it's not max speed, which is actually something I struggled a little bit with. And then I have Aegislash. This one traumatized me in earlier tournaments, and for an A-team, Aegislash is actually very nice here. I brought a set with an Adamant set with Swords Dance, Shadow Sneak, Iron Head, King Shield, and the whole idea was late game Shadow Sneak could win me. Plus I wanted some form of priority, because last time I had Comfey with Triage for priority. Now I have this for priority, and it's just another one of those guys. It's a good mon. Like, you can't really mess with it. It has a really solid typing, and it just does well. This tournament actually had a different problem in that yeah, only 2 people showed up. So that meant this was going to be a pretty quick tournament. Luckily, we did have 2 mods that did have teams prepared for if we needed more people. So we ended up with 4 people for this tournament. Not a lot, but it's still really cool, and it was a cool limitation to work with. My first match was actually against Kreia, which is one of the mods that's on here a lot. And they had a really scary S-team. A very offensive S-team. They led with a Smeargle, who of course runs, Sticky Webs and Spore. Which I led Ampharos and got a big hit off on it while it's Sticky Webbed up. And that I went for Discharge hoping for a Para. I didn't get the Para, then it Spored me. I actually got insanely lucky and got a first turn Wake because he went hard into his Slurpuff, which Slurpuff is a threat. It had the Belly Drum Unburden set, but I got insanely lucky. I woke up immediately and I got a Para on it while it Belly Drumped, so I could, and then it full Parrot, so I could kill it. At this point he brought Smeargle. The Smeargle got back in, and that was actually a very smart play. But I actually played this very well because I went hard Arbolife. I knew a Spore was coming. Arbolife can't be Spored. He did stun for me, but I got to kill the Smeargle. Now, the reason I clicked Earth Power was actually very specifically because they had a Skeledirge. And I knew Arbolife has bulky enough to live 1 Torch Song. So I actually stayed in. They brought out Skeledirge because, of course, I stayed in and I Earth Power and I kill, which actually threw them off a lot, I'm pretty sure. But they did correctly read that I was Specs, so they brought in their Samurott. And actually, they Swords Danced on me, which made things a little bit iffy, but it was still fine. I tried to go Articuno on it. I got off a big Earth Power. I tried to go Articuno on it and U-turn, but it modest screwed me over and it did outspeed me and killed me. Luckily, I was pretty sure that my Ampharos could live a hit. I know it can't go for a water move, so I'd have to Ceaseless Edge me. This was also when I found out that Seasonal Hedge is not a spikes, it's a damage over time. But I lived the hit, I got a discharge off, lived on 1 surprisingly enough, which was actually very nice, because that allowed me to get a discharge off on the incoming Scrafty. It bulked up on me, which made it very scary, and I died to spikes. And I actually thought my Araquanid could take this, but I very mistakenly clicked Leech Life, which of course fighting resist bug, which I forgot at the time. But Liquidation brings it very close enough to where my Arcanine can kill it. And as a last one, they have a very, very gimmicky Shoko who Shell Smashes on me and then Power Swaps to swap its defense and its attack. Which is a very interesting strategy. The only thing is, I have Will-O-Wisp, so I burned it and then brought in my Aegislash and just Iron-Headed it. Because it had contrary, so the speed was still dropping from it. Which actually brings me to the next finals already of the next tournament. But we're back against the Riley. Riley was the only other person that actually showed up. They beat Mern in their round, which was the other mod. And I knew they had a very scary S team. And actually they had Salamence at front for a long time. So I had a lead Arboliva, and then last second, B actually messaged me and said that they swapped to Snorlax in the front of their party, which means that's the Pokemon that comes out first. So I actually prepped for this by putting Aegislash in my first slot, which is something that's actually very valuable to do. Switch your first lead so that it counters your opponent. I swapped my Aegislash into the front slot and sent it out against his Snorlax, which I got a bit greedy, I'll accept that. I Trust Dance on it, and he brought in his Skeledirge, which Skeledirge is a threat to my team. However, Skeledirge is also the option for me to get Araquanid in on. Since Water Bubble halves all fire damage, Araquanid got in here on a Wisp actually, which meant that that was basically a wasted turn from them. And now Araquanid is it. And this matchup was actually very much how often can I get Araquanid in. Because his Intimidate Salamence came in next. And yeah, that's almost 40% at -1. What about it? Araquanid is broken, I keep telling you this. Now this is where Unfortune kind of strikes. He has his Salamence in. I'm kind of scared of it having like Fly or Aerial Ace. So I decide to scout by sending in my Arcanine. Arcanine of course with the Intimidate, lowering the attack. I eat up the Aerial Ace that he goes for pretty easily. And I'm pretty sure that a Wisp is basically free here. He doesn't have anything on his team that likes taking a Wisp. Except his Skeledirge, which I would like to Snarl. Plus Skeledirge lets me bring in Araquanid every time. So I decide to go for a Wisp. He Rock Slides me, hits me, unfortunately, and I miss my Wisp. I didn't even flinch, I just missed my Wisp. The rain is pretty appropriate now. So my next move is I bring in Ampharos, because I'm pretty sure I live in an Earthquake, and this is a terrifying one. So I just Dragon Pulse here, because, you know, it hits everything. And if he stays in here to Earthquake me, I live it and I kill it at least. And having this Golem is huge. He decides to switch though, into his Swampert, which fucking explodes. Like, hello, this is a neutral hit we're talking about. Why did he die? Anyway, now he sends in his Septolite, and he decides not to Mega at first. Which is an interesting play. I do knock him down a bunch with my Dragon Pulse, but since he is a Mega, he actually lives the hit, and then he Megas after to kill me, which is actually a really smart play. The only thing is that Dragon Pulse put him in range of my Shadow Sneak from Aegislash. I did the calc and it did like 29 minimum. Oh no, 22 minimum. So I killed the Sceptile with Shadow Sneak. Now at this point, he brings in his Skeledirge because it's very good against my Aegislash. My Aegislash is my big win from here. I need to save it. Scared that he's gonna click something against my Arachnid, I actually make a prediction and go Articuno first, which didn't end too well because Articuno dies, but I did get a future sight off. So that's actually very worth for me. And I get to bring in Arachnid on a queen switch. Whoa, on a queen switch. Now my Arachnid does hit his Snorlax pretty hard, but he rests on my switch to Aegislash. But here's where the future sight comes in. The future sight comes in and actually does almost half to Snorlax. And now I'm in with Aegislash against a sleeping Snorlax. So I'm predicting a switch here and bring in my Arachnid raw. First of all, the Snorlax is sleeping. So unless he has Sleep Talk, he won't be doing anything to me. And he has to switch to Skeledirge here because an Iron Head pretty much kills him. So I hard switch and predict right because he brings Skeledirge back in. And that means I get off another Liquidation, which straight up kills Snorlax, which is actually fine by me. That means my Aegislash is more freed up to deal with this elements. I don't need to, because that was a big factor. I had to keep my Aegislash in the back to deal with Snorlax. Now I don't have to do that anymore. I can use it on his elements. His elements is already low, and he does bring it in now, which unfortunately forces me to sacrifice my Arbaliva. I'll be real, until this point I completely forgot that he had a Scizor. But yeah, he has a Scizor, which luckily my Aegislash can deal with pretty well, and I get an Iron Head off on a Skeledirge that's coming in. I make the very predictable play and switch into my Arachnid on his Skeledirge. But, I mean, it kind of works out. Because I get to bring in Arachnid and actually force him to sacrifice his Scizor. Which is a big deal because priority is pretty decent against me. And if that has anything for my Aegislash, I'm kind of screwed. He does bring back in his Salamence though, which is of course a problem because it just clicks Aerial Ace. I was low-key thinking about predicting, but he actually makes a very good play and Shadow Claws me here, which I didn't expect it to have at all. But if Shadow Claws me, I live because I'm in shield form, and I Shadow Sneak here. This is the moment where everything got decided. I Shadow Snuck on a switch to his Skeledirge. And I remember this very well because I was sitting with my friends while I was playing this. They were working on a farm or something. But I Shadow Snuck. And I myself got surprised by how much damage it did. I looked at that damage because I saw the health bar go down before I clicked again. I was like, hold up. It went from like 78 to like 38. That's 40 damage. If Shadow Sneak kills here, I win. And in that moment, I decide to risk it all on that Shadow Sneak. And it does indeed kill Skeledirge. And another Shadow Sneak kills these elements. And I win my second tournament. Arachnid is OP. Is busted. Is absolutely filthily overpowered. And I wouldn't have it any other way.